Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 37.
Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Don Cardenas, and I hope you are all doing fantastic. Things continue to be very busy here at Comics Coffee Metal HQ. I recently just finished up my first ad gig. It was a comic, but there's also a few pages of graphics and stuff, but that was definitely a learning experience. I was definitely reining in a lot of the extraneous parts of my art style and really just trying to create something that was more clean and open and friendly. So if you're looking to buy a house in the north of Chicago area in the next 6 months, there's a good chance you're going to be seeing my work. Not a good chance. There's a chance you might be seeing my work. But yeah, it was a lot of fun at parts. Of course, it was still work and kind of like, how do I do this situation? A lot of a few more learning curves, like learning how to letter in Clip Studio. I'd not tried it before, and while what I did was very basic and it works just fine for the project, there's definitely a long way to go to being something that I would, consider professional enough for actual comics. Not to downgrade what I did, but it is an ad. It is it works fine. No one's going to be worried about me taken out of the story for this one because of bad lettering. Not that it's bad. Again, I'm just talking in circles now. The same could be said for the coloring, though. I am getting a little bit better, I think, coloring in Clip Studio. I have a course from Cam Russell that I have not started yet, but I'm looking forward to diving into that and just getting more comfortable coloring in Clip Studio. I'm more comfortable in Photoshop. Not that I was like super great or anything, but I knew what everything did for the most part. I knew most of the things to do, and while a lot of that should transfer over to Clip Studio, I color so infrequently that by the time I get used to doing something or remember how to do something, I have to relearn it every single time. Though now it seems like I'll be coloring myself more consistently, or at least trying to. I need to establish a more solid base of knowledge and stuff to go there. And other things, the Monster Mashup Volume 2 Kickstarter, that my real fun Excalibur meets Mad Max meets kind of Mandalorian story is wrapping up very soon. I'll put the link for that in the show notes. There's a lot of really cool stories in there from a lot of really good people, and there's still a little bit of ways to go for the funding to happen, but it's also not so far away that it can't happen. So I hope, if you're listening and you haven't checked it out, you go and check it out, because, the story I did with Phil was really fun. And again, it was a story with Philip Buthorn, and he's great at giving me this weird and cool stuff to draw. So, and this and an upcoming story we'll be doing soon is very much no exception to that. Additionally, I'm getting ready to start on, one of the bigger projects I've ever taken on since I wrapped up Pax of the Low Country. I'm getting really excited to start digging into that. Making some progress on some new music. I'm doing a little bit of music for some friends for their books, and it's shaping out to be something really fun, and I can't wait to wrap that up and, get that out there as well. Okay, so enough about that. Let's get into our recommendations for the week. For comics, my recommendation this week is the beautifully illustrated and lovingly written memoir Come Home Indio by Jim Terry, released through Street Noise Books. I've known Jim Terry for a few years now. I think we met at the Sundowners, which was a book from Dark Horse and writer Tim Seeley release party at Challengers Comics. He's a super nice guy. He's always been really friendly and just very personable and very approachable. And so while I knew this book was going to be good just because I knew the talent he had, I was kind of floored about how heavy it was and how much stuff Jim went through. And also how much of it resonated with me on a personal and emotional level. Jim's chronicles of his mixed cultural upbringing, what that means, not really fitting in and either side, or not feeling like you fit in on either side, and kind of dealing with all the emotions and feelings that kind of stuff brings up, and seeing some of the personal demons he's had to fight and hopefully have conquered. And it's it was a bit rough at times, but there's also some really inspiring moments in here on some things Jim does and some actions Jim takes towards the end of the book that were just really, really lovely things to read and see the illustrations he did for that. I'm trying not to give too much of the book away because I don't want to spoil anything. I think you should definitely go out and read it. If you like any type of autobio stuff, definitely you need to read this. If you like any type of, just non, superhero books, you need to go read this. If not just for, Jim's art alone, which Jim has a really great, I don't want to say old school style because I kind of, it gives the idea that it might be dated or not, but he's definitely influenced by, the Bernie Wrightson, Jack Davis type of style with a brush, and, his work is always awesome, especially his horror-based stuff, but, seeing him draw just like day-to-day and life stuff and just handle it so awesomely. It's not surprising. It's just, like, wow, just, is there no limit to how great Jim is? He also hand-lettered the book. The book itself it's kind of, a bunch of vignettes, but it's chronological. It doesn't feel disjointed, but it's definitely, if I recall correctly, vignettes that he was drawing and stuff like that, and certain scenes, at different times. And there's some pages you can tell, he's probably, doing it a little bit quicker than the other page, judging by how the lettering looks or, how much detail he might put in. It's all great and it's all, high quality stuff, but, you just kind of notice that difference. But I think that really adds to the, personal nature of the book, and it definitely adds to some of the urgency. And within those pages, there's also full page and double page spreads where it's just a single illustration and just, either a large swath of text or just a few lines, and those really not only break up nicely the narrative, it also really sets moods and really hammers emotional beats in the story. And there's some bits towards the end where those are a little bit more frequent, and I think it was kind of a genius move on his part to do it based on the scenario. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but I think it really highlighted the experience he had, and it really kind of helped illustrate, no pun intended, to me, the feeling of what he was going through during that. And it was just really, really great. Jim is a very talented writer. I'm going on about the art, but he's also a very talented writer. Nothing feels stilted or false with the dialogue. And while memoirs, are technically supposed to be what this person said and this is how they said it. We are our own unreliable narrators sometimes, but so sometimes these things can be a little stilted, but Jim's stuff comes across as very honest and very, very true. And it was just a really great book. I've had it in my collection since it came out, and I think it's September, and I just been kind of sitting with it and trying to get to it. I had seen from other people's comments that it was kind of heavy. And there was some dark stuff in there, and so I was kind of waiting until maybe I was in a better spot myself to read it and enjoy it. And while I can't speak to whether I'm glad I waited or not, I am definitely glad I read it, and I'm definitely glad I own this book. It's really great. So yeah, Come Home Indio by Jim Terry from Street Noise Books. Okay, so my music recommendation this week was actually something that was recommended to me by somebody else, that being Brian Chirilla, a buddy and phenomenal comic book artist and, another metalhead who will hopefully make his appearance on the show sometime soon. He recommended to me the album Reluctant Hero by the metal supergroup Killer Be Killed. They are comprised of Max Calavera of Soulfly and Sepultura on guitars and vocals, Troy Sanders of Mastodon on bass and vocals, Greg Puciato of Dillinger Escape Plan on vocals, and Ben Kohler of Converge on drums. It's quite the pedigree for an album, and with an album with a group with those kinds of guys who are all in very heavy bands, but heavy in different ways. This album, or this, these efforts from this band could really have gone really great, or really just not, And I was very happy to see that it went the best way possible for me. This is the second album from the group. It definitely feels more cohesive and confident than their first self-titled effort. It's, in terms of the music, it's just heavy, pummeling modern metal, and it's really groovy. It's got, some of the metalcore and groove metal and some death metal influences on there. It's just, but modern metal is kind of all that hodgepodge of all that stuff anyway now. So, but yeah, if you listen to this album, it's like these guys took all their expertise in writing grooves, heavy riffs, catchy vocals, thunderous drums, dumped it into a sack, and then just beat the hell out of you with it for like 45 minutes, and I loved every second of it. If I wanted to get real nitpicky about it, there are a couple songs on here where I'm not fully in on the concept, but none of them are overly long, where they don't, that I have to skip it or anything like that. You just kind of go through it, and there's a good chance they'll grow on me. This album came out in September of 2020, and I'm kind of surprised it took me this long to get to it. If I had to pick a song, though, like I said, it's kind of difficult to pick a song here. I have to go with Animus. It's probably the grooviest song. The title track, Reluctant Hero, it's also a really good closer. It's a little bit more of a kind of all the eggs in the basket type of song. And the opener, Deconstructing Self-Destruction, it's really good too. This is what I'm going through. It's all good stuff. And like I said, even though it's like a cohesive, confident album, they take turns with these songs. You have three vocalists. Everyone's a little bit different, and they have different strengths, and I guess that's what I'm getting at. Or I'm trying to get at, is this album. It's a super group of guys who, while they are all in heavy music, they are in different types of heavy music bands, and they really just find a way to make each person shine with this album and make it all work. And that's ultimately what I really enjoyed about this album. So I'm just going to close my eyes and point to a track. And there you go, Animus. That'll be the track I show you guys, because you know what? They're all good. Even the ones that I'm not 100% on, I'm sure other people absolutely love them and their favorite tracks on the album. So yeah, let's go with Animus from Killer Be Killed, the album Reluctant Okay, and now for my guest. Joe Hunter is an amazing artist. I've known him for the majority of my time on social media, and he's just, I've seen his artwork grow from, he's always working at a professional level with his style, but just seeing how he's grown and refined his style over the years, and seeming to get more opportunities and looking forward. I think he's going to get a lot more great opportunities. It's really fun to see. I always like seeing, you know, that growth from people and all that. It's really fascinating to watch, and it's great to see people who put the work in get the rewards. Joe is also, you know, a really fun guy to follow on Twitter. He's pretty funny, even though I'm sure he is probably cringing at the fact that I'm complimenting him right now. But he's just a stellar artist, a stellar human being. We talk a bit about his book Beast Heart Strikers with Lampits, and it's some other things that he's working on, and we get into digital art, and we have some pretty good Twitter questions. And yeah, it was a great chat with Joe. It was, you know, I say it a million times, you know, towards the end of the interview, but it's long overdue. So I'm glad that I've, you know, continued doing the podcast so I can keep talking to people, and one of those people being Joe. So yeah, let's get to it. Joe Hunter. 3, 2, 1.
Oh crap.
I'm gonna keep that in as we start. So Joe, I've known you on Twitter for many years. You are the only person so far to have blessed me with having drawn me into a comic, which is, you know, the secret desire of every single person who reads comics or makes comics is, when are you going to draw me, and preferably something terrible happening to me. But but we could talk more about that later or not. But it's been a long time coming to talk to you. But before we get started, I have to ask, Joe Hunter, comics, coffee, metal, what are you digging right now?
Where do you want me to start?
Wherever you want, man.
Okay, let's see here. Coffee. I don't know. I like coffee, but I don't really drink it a ton. And then, like, when I do drink, it's like, gosh, that's really good. And then I forget about it for 6 months, and oh, fuck.
No, it's fine. You know, there's been plenty of very, you know, passionate coffee drinkers on this show. I'm very much addicted to the stuff. So, you know, it's refreshing to hear sometimes now. You know, it's like I drink it here and there, and it's good, but then I just kind of forget about it. You know, because, you know, it's easy to kind of just, you know, especially like for like the colder months, like just drink coffee all day and like, oh yeah, I should have this thing called water. That should be something else I drink. So so when you do drink coffee though, are you kind of like whatever will do, or do you like getting a specific kind of coffee, like like a Dunkin' Donuts or a specific chain or anything like that?
Cold brew, not really super picky about where from. A lot of cream, a lot of sugar.
Yeah, I was a big cream and sugar, like heavy sugar guy, and I had to like kind of take it back because, you know, getting old.
Right.
You know, I can't have, like, I watch my sugars now. So cold brew is something a lot of people talk about too, and I'm like, it's kind of like a rare thing. I'm like in the mood for a cold coffee or something like that. Usually, like, which is stupid to say because half the time, by the time I'm done drinking my coffee with 2 kids running around, it's cold anyway. But
right.
but so on. That's okay. So okay, we got coffee. So comics. What kind of comics have you been digging lately?
Well, end up reading a lot of stuff through Hoopla, the library. God, let me pull up my app because I always blank whenever people ask me like what I'm into.
No, Hoopla's great. I tried doing that with our local library and all that. Just it's not as big of a selection, but you know, I haven't tried it in a few years, to be honest. But the last time I tried it, it was like a pretty like almost like a I've already read that, or you know, like this is some random, you know, Garfield Volume 32. Like, okay,
Yep.
I don't think I want to watch that. So I've been doing the Comixology Unlimited, and I've caught up on a lot of great stuff that way, and gotten discounts on a lot of stuff that way.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where I signed up for when the pandemic hit. It was like a free trial for like 90 days or something, and either I don't see where they're charging me, or they have forgotten to charge me for it this past 8 or so months after.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I don't know. It could just be like an Amazon charge, and we, having unfortunately ordered so many things from Amazon on a regular basis, we're like, I probably just miss it. I don't know.
Oh, man. But yeah, I'm apparently reading a lot of Power Rangers, which, shocker, I know. Oh, man. Really like Giant Days from Boom.
Yes, that's excellent series.
Oh, God.
Giant Days is one of the ones I started reading with Comixology Unlimited because my buddy and former guest Brian Latenky,
nice.
he's like Giant Days, it's so good, and I started reading it. It's a fantastic. I think I've gotten up to the third to last volume. I don't know, because the other ones were, you had to pay for, and I was like, maybe I'll wait a little bit so I show up on Comixology for free. But yeah, it's just an excellent series. It's really good.
Yeah. Oh, man. Apparently I was fudge. Sorry. Like lost my place. Stuff isn't loading. Shit.
Well, you mentioned Power Rangers, and they've kind of had a pretty big resurgence with comics lately, past few years.
Right.
And certainly the past few guests have noted their love of Power Rangers. That was something that was, which I kind of, obviously I know it's maybe a year or two. It came a year or two like after when I probably would have been all in for it. Because I remember very distinctly the first episode premiering, and I'm watching it. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. But it was also like we're on vacation and we're at my older brother's house, like in Arkansas or something, and we had like just gotten we had like just gotten back from like watching like the Mortal Kombat movie or whatever I think it was. So I'm like, I don't think this is. I think I'm a little too old for this now. Which looking back now, I'm like, yeah, I definitely wasn't. But giant robots and giant monsters. It should have hooked me hard. It just didn't. But I respect the game that they pulled.
Well, like I grew up like basically at my grandmother's house, and she was like always watching Godzilla movies or like other weird monster movies, and so that was just sort of like ingrained in me. So, well, people in spandex beating up on people in rubber.
Yeah, there you go. That's definitely influenced your comic work. I should say
a little bit.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but that whole like genre, like the Power Rangers-esque genre, or like the Kamen Rider stuff, that's all under like Super Sentai.
Tokusatsu Super Sentai is the like specific series that Power Rangers is edited from. Okay. I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I should know this. This should be my passing nerd knowledge, but it's unfortunately not. So Tokatsu is the like
Tokusatsu, yeah. Tokusatsu. It just means like special effects.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I've been reading the Gillen McKelvey run on Young Avengers. That's been fun to revisit. Oh man, I'm really doing bad at this. I apologize.
You're doing just fine, Joe. Don't worry.
Oh man.
I sprung it on you 2 minutes before we started. Like, yeah, I'm gonna ask you what comics you're reading too and all that. So don't worry.
Yeah, I should have like had notes or something because I've listened before and just anxiety, Brian. Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. So, but with the Gillen McKelvey stuff, like, yeah, I've actually started reading the Wicked and Divine series.
Nice.
Because I picked that up on a Humble Bundle a couple years ago, a year or so ago. I don't know, it was fairly recent. And I started going through that, and I think, while it's one, obviously with Matt Wilson and McKelvey's art. It looks gorgeous, but I think
Right.
I was reading it too fast,
Mm-hmm.
and reading it before bed, like when you're kind of like, your brain's kind of shutting down and all that. I think I wasn't giving it I wasn't giving it the proper platform because
Right.
I'd fallen off reading it, and then I'm like, I should get back into it, and I could not remember like half of the stuff that happened. And I'm like, why is that? And I'm like, well, maybe because I'm falling asleep while I'm reading this thing. No, it's not a mark on the book. It's just because I'm just ready to pass out when I go to bed. So I'm really just forcing myself to take in some type of creative something besides just stupid guitar YouTube videos or whatever. So, yeah. So, but I've never read their Young Avengers stuff. So, but it seems to be well loved, and
Oh, yeah. Well, I love it at least, but God, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And I know you're not a metalhead. I don't know if I've ever seen you comment or anything about anything metal. So feel free. Don't feel pressure to come up with something metal. So, what music are you digging lately? Because I know you got a pretty good palette of stuff you listen to.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. Oh man. Yeah, I was never really like a big metal head ever. I was like a giant emo kid when I was in high school. Literally because I was like 6'4". Jeez. But yeah, I've been listening to a lot of either like pop punk from when I was in high school or musical theater stuff because I'm that fucking lame apparently.
I can't knock anybody who not that that listens to like musical theater stuff, because one, I respect the art form, and two, I listen to like symphonic metal, and that's like it's pretty much the same thing.
Theater, yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Even like death metal and stuff like that. It's all, a lot of it's theater. So it's
yeah.
Yeah, just because it's not guttural vocals and like blast beats doesn't mean it's not got the same kind of idea behind it that you're theater. So
oh man.
So pop punk, what kind of what bands in particular are your era of pop punk?
Fall Out Boy, Motion City Soundtrack, Paramore. Actually still listen to Paramore. God, I'm so lame.
I like that After Laughter album. That's a real good album.
Oh God, it's so good.
I've tried their earlier stuff, and I'm like, that's not really for me. But getting into synth pop stuff, like, yeah, this is some pretty good stuff.
Right.
Yeah. How do you feel about that kind of shift that band has made?
I love it.
Yeah. It seems like they have
I grew up listening to like the Cars and stuff, so that's yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that feels like an evolution as opposed to a deviation you're not too fond of. Okay, cool. Well, because I've only, I forget what song it was. They had I know Paramore's had a few hits.
Right.
I would be hard pressed to pick them out, hearing them straight out. But
that's fair.
After was it Hard Times? I'm like, oh, I heard that song. I'm like, what band? I'm like, oh, it's band Paramore. I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I thought they didn't sound like this. Like, really didn't sound like this. So then what was it? And then I think Caught in the Middle was in the radio, like not too long after that. And I'm like, okay, who's this? And it's like, oh, it's Paramore. I'm like, wait a second. So yeah. So one quick,
what the hell happened?
one quick check to iTunes, and I'm like, okay, I guess at least with this album, I'm a fan. It falls in that. it falls in that, like, Churches, Tegan and Sarah, Fantagram, kind of synth poppy stuff that I dig. So I'm like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So with the influence you've had growing up with all like the Power Rangers and stuff like that. You've obviously brought that over into your art. Is that the type of, with like Radical Guardian Skater X and Beast Heart Strikers? Is that something that is like just in your wheelhouse and you feel most comfortable doing, or is that more like, no, this is what I love doing and this is what I want to do, as opposed to like not going to like a horror comic or something like that? Like I would try to, like, usually when I'm thinking about people's art and stuff like that, I try to visualize like, what would a horror comic from like Joe Hunter look like? What would, like, or just like a straightforward superhero comic look for? Is that something you would see yourself doing in the future, or?
I don't know. I've always wanted to try like taking a crack at a horror comic, but I always kind of like get in this like sort of anxiety spiral about, oh God, I'm too cartoony. What am I doing with my life? Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's like a better answer to that, and I just like blew it.
No, it's you gave a great answer. I'm just curious because there's times where someone can just say like, no, I love doing this and I really don't feel like doing anything else, which is great, and kudos to that person for finding their thing. I was just like picking the brains of what is there something that you've just like a mountain you've yet to tackle that you've been wanting to, or something like that. So hearing that you've at least consider like, man, doing a horror story, like, I don't, for one, you do have see, people use cartoony like it's a negative almost a lot of times, but it's like incredibly difficult to do and incredibly difficult to do well. I couldn't draw cartoony if you had a gun to my head. So when I mentioned cartoony, yeah, I mentioned it with respect. But you do have a cartoony style, but I think you would play well with a horror story. I think that kind of style,
or like a
would
dispensey thing, maybe. I don't know. Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
It would kind of subvert the idea of like something, like I would draw, or someone who's like really into like a ton of like dark shadows and deep blacks and stuff like that, and a tons of rendering and stuff like that. I think you would do great. I understand the anxiety about doing a different thing, and that is typically not associated with the other thing, but I think you would do great with that. So if the opportunity comes, I think myself and a ton of other people would totally just jump on that and support you for that. Yeah, I give out compliments on this show, Joe. So,
oh God,
you have to take them directly from me, actually speaking them, as opposed to whatever stupid GIF I reply to things with online.
God, just slide the knife between my ribs.
Oh, you're a great artist, Joe. Take it. All right. So,
sorry.
We won't clip that out of context at any point. That's fine. Well, I started this. Usually I save the Twitter questions for like towards the end and all that, but last episode I started peppering them through the episode, and I kind of like doing it that way. So that's how we're gonna do it.
Works.
So let's go with our first question, and I think that kind of fits with what we're just kind of talking about music and art, and that is from the awesome Matt Smith at Barbarian Lord. He wants to know, what is your go-to album when it's late and you're tired and you need to keep working?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of an artist called Macross 8299 lately, which is sort of this like the genre's called future funk. It's like a lot of chopped up Japanese pop music from like the 80s.
Okay.
It's
that sounds
better than it sounds.
So it's like really upbeat, up-tempo kind of stuff, just kind of pump you up and get you through everything. Okay, cool. So was that Macross?
8299.
8299. Okay. Now, Matt, I know, is a very much a metal guy. I know he has a wide variety of things. So, for myself, I think, for me, it really kind of depends on my mood, what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Like,
same here.
for me, like if it's lately, I would have to say probably getting into some more, just like heavier, deathy black metal type stuff.
Cookie
Um,
Monster vocals.
Yeah, I've talked about this a bunch, but the artist Chuck Beebe, he put out his own
Mm-hmm.
uh black death metal album recently
Oh, nice.
called Nosk of the Void, which is from, it's inspired by that Hollow Knight video game. And
Oh,
it's really good. It's not black metal in that it's like super dark or like super heavy satanic things. It's just there's a lot of that kind of production sound or just kind of that vibe. You know, there's kind of the
nice.
screechy vocals and all stuff, but he's got some really good stuff on there. So that's been kind of and also a lot of these albums or EPs are like 20, 25 minutes. So it's kind of like I can just put that on for like a quick, experience.
Boost
And
of
then
energy.
yeah, and then it's like, okay, on to the next thing. More often than not though, I'm usually like I have like a backlog of like YouTube channels and stuff like that. I got into like a, was it you or somebody like retweeted a Toy Galaxy channel thing.
Oh, yeah. I think I did tweet
Yeah.
something from that.
Yeah, and so I went down a rabbit hole with them. So going back on old episodes of that and all that, and that's a great channel because it's like 10-minute episodes of
Yeah.
just random 80s stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like who else is going to talk about Dino Riders, like that's cool. But yeah, that's where I'm at. But like, I'm giving a super long-winded answer for a question that was for you, so apologies. But
It's fine. Sorry.
but it's all about also kind of like the vibe. Like if it's like summer and it's like my windows are open and you kind of smell that, because I work, in the evenings, typically
Right.
after everyone's asleep, so you get that like cold or slightly cool, just like night air. For me, that's like a great time to put on like some synth pop or like synth wave type stuff. That kind of like puts me into a
Yep.
good groove and like a good mood there. But yeah, but when it's like cold and miserable, yeah, let's throw on something fast, cold and miserable. uh, so lately you've been working on this book, Beast Heart Strikers, with the writer Lan Pitts. How did that come about? Was that something he approached you with, or is that something you've kind of developed together, or?
Oh, jeez. Well, we kind of developed it together. Like he just like jumped into my DMs after I had posted like a quickie warm up sketch on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, let's work together." And then the book sort of grew out of that, I guess.
Okay.
God,
So,
that is a terrible answer. I'm sorry.
well, I mean, it's again, it's not a terrible answer. You don't have to poo poo your answers. It's the answer, right? It's like you posted a warm up sketchy, and he probably was like, "Damn, okay, let me slide into this guy's DMs and see what we got." So, and I am remiss in not mentioning what Beast Heart Strikers is. So, if you could tell everybody what the premise of the book is before we continue to talk about it.
Yeah, it's Beast Heart Strikers is sort of a it's sort of like young adult Power Rangers by like way of Steven Universe and a bunch of 90s anime that Lan and I ended up like sharing a love for, and it's just a bunch of stuff smashed together, and it's a comic. Oh my god, what is wrong with me?
Is this something that you guys are just releasing out through Comixology?
Yeah, we're releasing it on Comixology. Working on issue 3 right now, hoping to have that done by the end of the month, and then there's going to be a little bit of a hiatus for extremely specific reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing bad, it's just a lot.
Is this something that once you're kind of like finished with the story arc, you guys might like do a Kickstarter for like a printed collection, or you're just trying to keep it all
Yeah,
digital?
probably.
Okay.
Thinking about it, we're getting physical copies of 2 and 3 in print because we hadn't actually gotten around to those because of the whole pandemic situation and
Yeah, that
no
kind of put a
convention.
damper on a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
Well, that
a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be hopefully things will start opening up and you guys could have some printed editions. And I don't know if you guys were planning on trying to do the C2E2 in December this year. Which seems like a terrible decision to have a con in Chicago in early December. But it is a much better decision than having it in late February. I wish, you're from the Midwest, right?
Yeah, Ohio.
Early December winter is different than late February winter.
Oh yes,
there's still some whimsy. There's still some like, oh, it's gonna be cold. Oh, look, there's snow, as opposed to oh fuck.
And everyone's frozen to death.
Exactly. So, have you always worked all digital, or was that something you eventually? Because again, I don't know what our age gap is, but I know it's a bit. So the access of digital.
Like 32, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
not as big as I thought, but yeah, 6 years is still a decent gap. So yeah. I think the access to digital was a little more available, or I guess the tools, but the easier tools. Because I remember spending $200 on a Wacom Bamboo tablet, like I want to say around 2012, something like that. And that being like, the cheapest entry that wasn't like 1000% garbage into the digital art. So, and now these days, I think you can use an Apple Pencil on like the $300 iPad or something. I don't know. But was working digital something you like kind of latched onto quickly, or was it just something that's been, a sooner thing than I realize?
Well, like anything that I've had like published has been digital, but I don't know. It feels like it took a while for me to get there, and like I just feel like I'm constantly behind on everything. And oh man, but yeah, I work all digitally now. Apple Pencil on an iPad.
Now, do you use Clip Studio or Procreate?
Procreate. Sorry.
Okay. No. Yeah. I've it's kind of funny because when I first got my iPad just under a year ago, I was curious about Procreate, and I was like, oh, it's $10 for just the whole program, and a lot of people seem to be using it, and it was so like if I had just started working digitally and just started using Procreate, I would probably be all in on that program. But since I was already using Clip Studio on my PC,
right,
and all that, I was like, So now I have both. I like Procreate for just sketching something out, just like getting right to it, and just that it's so much easier. Just get something down and done that way. But if I'm doing like finished pages and stuff like that, I bring it over to Clip Studio.
Right. Yeah, I was all set to download Clip Studio when I got my iPad, and then I saw it was a monthly subscription fee. I was like, no, not so much. So Procreate it was.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh God,
that was so weird because for me it's not a monthly thing. I ended up paying.
What?
Yeah, but because I already had it on my PC.
Oh my God.
It was like I could play like a yearly thing. It was like a yearly like. I forget what the cost was, but it was like it wasn't that dramatic where I'm like, okay, I can suck this up once a year. And then other people were like, you should be getting it for free, but I think that was just like an initial thing. There's like a bunch of different ways people were like, this is how I'm subscribing to it, and I'm like, this seems really confusing. And the path of least resistance was the one where it just looked like I had to pay just like a yearly fee to access it. So
jeez.
If you still have Clip Studio on your PC, on your computer and all that, I think that's still something that's available to you. I don't think that's something they took away, but yeah.
Well, like my computer died on me, which is
Oh,
why
okay.
I switched over to the iPad. So,
Okay. I see.
oh god, it was like a decade old like MacBook. So,
Oh, okay.
jeez.
So do you
Well,
like
I
the
feel dumb now.
it's I mean, you've gotten used to Procreate though, right? And as far as I can tell, like for the majority of people, it's just as usable. Like, you're not bringing in like some of these people I see, like they're bringing like 3D models and things and doing all these things inside the
Oh my
program and
god.
all that. And you're like, I don't know if you're a power user like that with that kind of stuff. Or you're just
No.
like, no, I sit down and I draw the damn thing.
Yeah, basically.
uh, I have noticed over the past year or so that your colors have like really gotten super tight and
Oh,
just
really?
have really, not that they were ever unprofessional quality, but they've really gotten grown a lot. Is that something you're kind of actively working on, or is that just the more you do the better you get?
Well, again, it's like I feel like well, I guess it is something I'm like actively working on because I just feel like I'm constantly behind
Mhm.
everyone else and skill wise. Um,
Well,
I mean, I don't think it was like conscious exactly, but like, yeah, I just try to always keep improving because stagnancy is the enemy or something.
yeah, yeah. I you know I totally get with the whole feeling behind. I came back to drawing like my mid 20s, and even then I didn't really start getting serious with it until I was about your age.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like constant seeing like some 20-year-old come who's like blowing my ass out of the water.
Yep.
and I'm like, man, and you also got like all day to draw. Like I got like 4 hours at best a day to get work done, and half of that is probably emails or writing something and not drawing. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna catch up to you, bro. So, but no, it's I get the feeling like you're constantly behind, and I kind of had to restart a little bit by switching to the iPad, because as much as I love drawing physically and using traditional inking tools and all that, like just my lifestyle doesn't call for me to be able to sit at the desk to do
Right.
that. So I can take my iPad into the living room while while the kids are running around and stuff, and I can do a little bit here, do a little bit there, and make my progress that way. But it's I've really it was definitely bigger learning curve for me. I'm still obviously learning because digital was never something I was uber comfortable with. Like all the digital stuff
Right.
I had done, I mainly just had digital stuff for like cleanup or layouts and stuff like that, and then I would do everything traditionally at the end. So really finishing things and coloring things and doing all that stuff on the iPad has been a pretty big learning curve. And just been some stuff I'm like, hey, not bad, Don, not bad. And there's other stuff where I'm like, I don't have to look at that ever again. That's fine. So yeah. So was there a big learning curve for you from the iPad to from where you were drawing before on tablets, or?
Not too big a switch over. I was working on a Cintiq before, but
Okay.
I don't know. I think the biggest learning curve was like the difference in the sort of surface between the iPad screen and the Cintiq screen, because like the iPad is a lot slicker, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Is that even a word I want to use there? Oh
Slicker.
god.
Well, yeah, it's more glass like. It's glass.
Smoother. Yeah, that.
It's classy. There you
Ugh,
go.
words.
Um, is so? Do you use like any like screen protectors on it or anything to kind of like tooth it up a little bit, or?
No, I've been looking at like getting like a nib cover thing for
Okay.
my
Yeah,
Apple Pencil, maybe.
I see the ads for that too. The pencil tip
Oh
things.
god, incessantly all over Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everybody. I just went ahead and succumbed to the relentless advertising and ordered those pen tips. So I guess I'll let everybody know if they were worth it or not. And yeah, important information that you needed to know right now. All right, back to the show. Yeah, I've been using the paper like cover. It's fine. I think it works well enough, but I think after a while it kind of like I have pretty, you know, oily hands. So, by the time I'm like, after like, a week or so of a new cover, it's, it's still better than a glassy screen, but it's not that much better. So I just kind of keep it
Right.
on. I mainly just keep it on as like a scratch guard for anything. Because again, kids. So,
Right.
uh, but I've heard good things about some much cheaper options from the Paperlike and all that. So I might be checking those out. So, but yeah, I've often wondered about the differences between, because I know the Cintiq screens, like you can get like felt nibs for the Cintiq pencils or
Yeah.
styluses or whatever. And the first tablet I ever had that I could draw on was a Samsung Note,
Oh, geez.
and they actually had a Wacom digitizer. That was the whole thing, like why I got that one. But
Oh,
but the Samsung Pen was this tiny little thin little whatever.
stick.
Yeah, this little stick where it's like, all right. But drawing on it, like the screen felt like it had a ton of drag on it. It felt really great. But
Ooh.
the technology behind the tablet aged out so fast. Like, and it just like, it's, I still have it. It still works. But like the battery lasts like maybe 2 hours. And it heats up like a mofo. I've replaced the battery on it.
Oh, jeez.
And I've gotten a slightly bigger stylus for it, and it's decent for what it is. But right now, it's been relegated to like it just plays time lapse videos of my art when I'm at cons. That's its purpose now. Which so when I decided to like not splurge, but like invest into the iPad, like I was super.
Right.
I was like, oh man, I hope this isn't like a thing. But at that point, my wife had her iPad, because she got her iPad when I got my tablet, and her iPad is still perfectly usable. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm like age out of OSs anytime soon with this one. It was ridiculous. It was like a year after I got it. It's like, oh, you're not eligible for this, Android OS upgrade. And I'm like, what? I had to like,
oh my God.
I had to like, jailbreak it or something or whatever to try to like just so I can use some of the apps.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, this is why people use Apple, because it
Yeah.
goes to tail because it just works. Like it just like. I use PC. I'm fine tinkering with stuff on that and all that. I'm cool with that. But when it comes to like tablets and all that, I'm like, I don't have the patience for this, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
My PC, I'm perfectly fine. Like, oh, I have to upgrade some things on here. I can do that. Cool. But yeah, for the tablets and all that, it's just I just want it to do the thing. So. Well, speaking of Lan Pitts, even though we haven't mentioned him like in 10 minutes. He has a question for you, and that is best Nick show and worst Nick show. And by Nick, he means Nickelodeon, which,
right,
some people may not know. You have you have a little bit of history with. So, if you would care to share, or not.
I don't think I will. Oh God. Well, probably my favorite show on Nickelodeon is probably The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Worst.
Trying to figure out how to expound on that. Sorry.
Well, Pete and Pete is another one of those things where it's like everyone just a little bit younger than me was like, "Oh, I love that show. That show was awesome."
Mm-hmm.
And even some people my age were like, "Oh man, I love that show." And it was just never one of those ones that I caught on to.
Well, trying to figure out how to word this. It just like was a really wonderful show about how much like life could be beautiful and suck massively at the same time, and it was just good.
Okay, so worst.
God, that was descriptive. Sorry.
Well, it was a nice description. It was short, but it was to the point. Worst Nick show. I think there's probably it's like, where do you start?
Oh God, there was this like probably early to mid 2000s. There was this like really horrible looking show with these puppets that I cannot remember what it was called, but like they were the ugliest goddamn things I've ever seen. I think there's something involving a tapeworm. I don't. Oh God, it was bad.
uh, I see. When it comes to Nick shows, I just remember like the game shows.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's more my
That's-
era. You know, Mark Summers just doing it up. Or what was that one? Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yep.
That's the one. Like I think
Always enjoyed that too.
there's a tweet going around, and I think it was like something like what game show or something you want to do. And I'm thinking, as you know, as a 38-year-old man, I'm like, I want to go on Legends of the Hidden Temple. I think I could kick some ass on that show now.
You can actually figure out how to put together the goddamn monkey statue. Jesus.
Oh.
It's 3 pieces. It's not that hard, people. Come on.
Does it look like a monkey? No, try again. Oh boy.
Put the thing on top of the thing, slide the head in, go.
Oh.
I'm now yelling at children from 20 years ago. Jesus Christ.
Well, those children from 20 years ago are now the adults on those MTV challenge shows.
Oh, well, screw them.
I think there's a direct line from like, you know, the idea behind that show and then, you know, doing those challenge shows, but that's, you know,
I mean, you're not wrong.
people, you know, I'm just waiting for, you know, it just be some sort of hidden secret that these are all like former child game show contestants who are just trying to grab one last piece of glory because it was stripped from them from, you know, from Nickelodeon. Well, I guess worst Nick show is the random puppet show that haunts your dreams, something about a tapeworm, which I'm sure we'll both be Googling.
I think it was called Mr. Meaty, which is just like awful in and of itself. Sorry.
Mr. Meaty. That's just
Mr. Meaty.
That's unsettling.
A little bit.
It is. I just Googled it real quick. Mr. Meaty.
Oh, Jesus.
It's two, looks like they're working at a fast food joint, something like that.
Oh, God. Yep, there they are. Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. I'm not going to be able to sleep now looking at this thing. Jesus.
On this day in 2005, Mr. Meaty premiered. That's not something to be celebrated, honey. Sorry about that.
Oh, and there's the tapeworm. All right. There you go.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Kids shows. Awesome. Well, keeping on the theme of this amazing discovery we just had, let's take another question, and that is from Sid at Sins to Hell on Twitter.
I just did their podcast.
Oh, nice. Who are some of your favorite comic inspirations, and what are your favorite things to doodle?
Oh, gosh. Comic inspirations. Well, I think the thing that started it for me was like back in God knows how long ago, but like the first comic that I ever bought with my own money was a like collected edition of the Zelda comic that had run into Nintendo Power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which was drawn by Shotaro Ishinomori, who had also created like Super Sentai Kamen Rider and oh god, everything is a circle.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of been like a thing for me, I guess. The Tintin cartoon, watched that a lot when I was a kid, and that's probably kind of seeped in my brain. God, what else? Just that, a lot of anime. It's one of those things like sort of hard for me to keep track of. Oh God, I'm so bad at talking about myself.
Well, you mentioned this Zelda comic.
Yeah,
it was a collection. Where'd you pick that up? Was that at a comic shop, or was it like?
That was like at like the video game section of Walmart in like the 1998, maybe.
Oh, back when you can get comics in you know in random.
Well, I think they had it there.
I guess you still can.
Like, it come from Nintendo Power, and they like put it in with like the game guidebooks.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. So, just kind of like a freak accident that it was there.
Was that kind of like your introduction into comics itself, or was that just like
not just really? Sort of been reading comics like my whole life. Like I kind of inadvertently taught myself to read with like the Sonic comics and the Death of Superman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
like
that's too
tonal whiplash, but
yeah. Well, you know, the Death of Superman, that was, you know, for whatever
a big deal.
Whatever, yeah, and whatever, like, you know, speculative, you know, business practices were behind that and all that. That was actually like a really, really great series, and I really appreciated like now like seeing how out of not that it's super subtle, but like throughout like the last few issues, like they were going from like each page had 4 panels and then 2 panels, and then the last issue every page was a spread.
Yep.
Like just opening up the whole thing, like that kind of crazy style. Like that was something that I didn't notice, and when I like read that like in a random Wizard interview like in the early 2000s, I was like, what? Oh. so so you've kind of been around comics, you know, most of your life. I remember I remember the Sonic comics too. There was a pharmacy near my house that I would go to with my grandma, and they would have the spinner rack, and they would have all like the TMNT adventures and all that stuff. That's where I got my first comics and stuff like that. Was that something like that for you, or were you actually like near a comic shop, or was it just kind of stuff that, you know, randomly lying around relatives' houses? Or
it was a spinner rack at a sort of convenience store up the street from my grandmother's house again.
Grandma's sounding pretty pivotal here.
Yeah, basically.
Give it
basically like live with her because my mom worked during the day, and then my dad would sleep during the day because he worked at night, and it was the whole thing.
No, I can totally
also,
sympathize there. Yeah,
just randomly found like a box of the horrifying like Archie Christian comics.
Oh boy.
You know anything about those? Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Literally. Oh fuck.
Those were oh god, I remember I read some article on those years ago. That like just like how like just messed up they are. Just like how like cultish it was, and ugh.
Oh god, yeah.
I can totally sympathize with your grandma, because my grandma lived with us, but it was kind of the same scenario. My dad worked, you know, until early morning, and so he'd be sleeping during the day, and my mom worked during the day. So grandma would be the one to pick us up from school, or if we had to go to the store or something, the local stores and all that, grandma would be the one coming with us and all that. So I'm pretty sure she fronted plenty of bucks and 75 cents this year for some of these comics, because kids at one point comics were like 75 cents. And like in the early 90s, not a lot, or like $1, something like that. But yeah, now with like the news of DC going to like almost $6 on some books,
Jesus,
it's it's crazy.
I remember feeling like it was a personal affront when the Sonic comic went up to like $1.25 an issue. Oh my god.
I still remember there's an era there where there was stuff was still on the newsstand. So like if you would buy a new comic, you'd have to like make sure like, did I get, if you got the newsstand edition, you had the newsprint paper, but if you got the direct market edition, you had the slick glossy paper.
I didn't know that.
And so I remember there was a few comics I got that were the newsstand edition, because I had just been in the store and I saw that it was out, and I picked it up, and I got, I think like X-Men 25, where Wolverine gets his stuff ripped out. His adamantium ripped out, to be more specific.
Yeah.
Though I'm sure there were later comics in the 2000s where other things got ripped out. But I remember distinctly like getting that, and then like my brother would be like, "What's the Destin newsstand edition? It's not the direct edition." And I'm like, "What?" So, yeah, this is pointless what I'm saying here, but it's just like kind of weird. just slightly this going off in this tangent in my brain. Like, yeah, that was like weird that there's 2 different editions on different papers, and no
I legit had no idea that was a thing. Holy crap.
I don't think it was ultra I think it was just like mainly like the bigger publishers and all that, because eventually everyone's switched to the nicer paper, and now Marvel prints on 1-ply toilet paper. So just I listen to a few retailer podcasts, and there's like, it's just like they're just constantly trashing the quality of the Marvel paper, and it's like I don't buy single issues much anymore, and if I do, it's usually someone I know's independent project, so it's usually decent paper, So I don't know, man. Anyway, I hope everyone's enjoying this this detour down nonsense lane. So
I know I am.
Let's get back to Sid's question now. What are some of your favorite things to doodle?
Favorite things to doodle? Well, let's see here.
Well, if you need a second to think, I'll jump in and I'll answer the question for myself, since Sid, I'm sure wants to know my opinion on this.
Sorry,
all sarcasm. No, that just give you a second to think about it. For me, I doodle like Venom a lot, just because it's so ridiculous. The face and the teeth and the tongue and the it's just like, so it's one of those things where it's like it's hard not to draw him wrong, because it's been drawn so many weird ways.
Yep.
So you could do like, straight perfect Mark Bagley style, all pointed teeth, or you could do just totally messed up, going each and every way direction, Eric Larson style, or just, whatever. So whenever I'm just like mindlessly doodling, it's usually like a Venom or like probably a Cable face or something. I don't know, because Cable's equally ridiculous to draw. So. How about you? Is it the Power Rangers type stuff, or like the because
I'll doodle like monster ideas for these Heart Strikers, or I don't know. I end up defaulting to like weird skeletons a lot, which probably something I should see a therapist about. Occasionally I'll do just like little 15-second figure drawings. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't really have like a set thing that I default to too much. I don't know.
Well, you do post a lot of just kind of, I guess, random sketches or things like that. Do you have like a set time you usually give yourself or something like that, or is just kind of just letting your mind go to drawing?
Yeah, it's mostly just like letting my mind go and wander, get lost, get mugged, crawl back home.
It's because I find like, I've tried to do stuff like that where it's like, oh, I'll set aside some time to do a sketch, and then that just puts like its own pressure on it, because I'm like, I'm going to do like an actual like 10-minute warm-up sketch, and the running joke of comics Twitter is like, none of these warm-up sketches are warm-ups. They're like complete, a lot of completely finished pieces. There's a handful of people where like I believe that's their warm-up, but because I've seen them work, but for others it's like let's just call it what it is. It's a beautiful drawing. Just call it a warm-up sketch.
I mean, you set out to do a warm-up sketch, and then shit happened.
yeah. Just say, oh, this was a warm-up sketch, but it got away from me. Like, we get it. It's still it's no less gorgeous. You fully rendered and like just immaculate like gradients with colors and stuff like that. It's like, all right, like, listen, let's be real here. Unless you have like a time lapse that's literally showing this took you like less than 45 minutes. Like, I think like a warm-up's like, being generous, like 45 minutes. Give yourself 45 minutes to do that. Anything past that, you're kidding yourself, I think. But this is also me coming from me, who's incredibly slow. So
yeah.
Are you a fast?
I do sometimes do like weird little like sort of speed paints of like weird sci-fi landscapey things for some reason.
Do you post those at all? Is that just because I don't recall seeing a ton
here
of
and
those?
There, I don't really post those a ton, but
not that you have to, because there's also that whole idea of like, if I don't post this, did I really draw it?
Right.
This art does not exist unless the world has seen it. And then I get my 2 likes, and then I'm disappointed I only got 2 likes. Are you typically a faster artist? Like, if you had to like gauge, obviously you do your own colors too, so that obviously adds time to the whole situation.
Yeah. I don't know. I get told that I'm fast a lot, and I don't really see it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, would you be able to do like a 20 to 22 page monthly book, all colors and inks and all that? Do you think that's something?
Could probably swing every other month.
Okay. Which is probably which probably is fast these days for a lot of people. When you hear about like just how long some people take with these pages, and also that also it goes along with the demands of what people expect for art, these days.
Yeah.
So when you are drawing, are you always thinking like in color with it too, or you just or is that like two separate modes your brain works when you're drawing?
It's a two separate modes thing, definitely.
Do you ever come across like where you're like in the coloring stages and you're like, I'm gonna have to redraw this because I want to color it this way, and the way I drew it this way isn't gonna work, or
all the goddamn time. Literally just did that today.
I don't, I'm still very much a novice at coloring, especially on Clip Studio, so I don't claim to be any good at it. But I definitely have come across that a lot myself, where it's like, oh, I wish I would have drew this differently because I could color this way, or but we have very different art styles, so a lot of my stuff is like, why didn't I just do all this hatching and like rendering BS on a different layer so I could just flat this a lot faster?
Yep.
just use the paint bucket tool on everything and be done with it with the flats. So, but yeah, okay. Well, no, I just ask if you're, quote unquote fast, just because you do seem to have, a lot of, I guess, consistent output, I would say, in terms of like just sketches and stuff coming out that, that are, professional quality and they look great. And so I'm just kind of like, wondering like if, you kind of have like your I guess workflows down to like a science. Like, do you have like a real specific like, I don't know if Procreate has this like do you like a workspace setting where for like, okay, now I'm going to be coloring, so now my tools are set up this way, or is it kind of just all the same and you just?
Yeah, it's just kind of all the same. I just kind of sketch, ink, and color, just like kind of going down the pages like an assembly line.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's probably the most efficient way to do things, but I don't know.
So does that mean like, do you do like pencils?
Like, again, I always feel like I'm like behind and sorry, go on.
Do you do like pencils, inks, colors, and then the next page, or is it like all pencils, all inks, all colors?
All pencils, inks, colors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've when I first started, I started doing it the first way, which I'm like, this is incredibly inefficient. Because by the time I would get to start coloring again, I would like forget like what I was doing.
Yeah.
Or like each like I had this 8-page story I did where if I look at the actual Clip Studio files, you'll see where I started on page 1, all the layers are like nicely named in order, they make sense. And then by the 8th one, it's like 42 layers. There's just like one or two brush strokes on one layer because I forgot what the other layer is. I didn't feel like clicking through all the layers to figure out what it was. So like I was gonna set it to the same settings, and there you go. So yeah.
With Procreate, you're like limited on the number of layers that you can have, so it kind of forces you to like plan ahead and be clever, which.
To be organized, which is our natural enemy. The natural enemy of the artist, organization.
That and math.
Yeah. Are you a very organized person with like, how you break things down and all that, or do you kind of like, because I've started really trying to, whiteboard myself to death with like grids and making sure I'm staying on top of things, because I have a tendency to start 15 things at once and then think I have enough time to give to all those 15 things in a satisfactory manner when I don't. I barely have time to give it to the one thing. So, I've been really trying to focus on doing the one thing. That's done. Move on to the next thing. Is that kind of how you work, or is that more of a, or are you just kind of like more of a go with the flow situation?
I try to be organized, but I just kind of doesn't really always work, and things go horribly awry, and so I just end up scrambling to figure out how to make shit work.
Yeah, that was my go-to for a long time. I was like, oh, okay, I got plenty of time. Like, oh shit, I got like 2 weeks to finish this. Like, oh man. So, and then my personal scenario, I'm like, well, I definitely can't, pull all-nighters and do this and still function. I have, actual little lives that depend on me being me being a functioning human being, an adult. So, yeah, I've had to really force myself to do this. So yeah, it's something I've been meaning to ask a lot more artists that I talk to. Just like, how do you break down your work? How do you like just organize yourself? Because so many of us now wear so many different hats. Like, I would say, oh yeah, I draw comics, and then it's like, well, I'm also doing this podcast, and I'm also coloring stuff sometimes, or sometimes I'm inking stuff for somebody, or now I'm writing things, or then commissions, and then it's like, okay, well, that's like 15 different things.
Yep.
and then there's like, okay, well, I got to make sure I'm at least present on social media, and that can go awry. That cannot go. You can end up spending too much time scrolling or doom scrolling, whatever they want to call it, or flipping back between like, okay, I posted it on Instagram, I posted it on Twitter. I just kind of, I'm terrible to my art Facebook page. I barely post anything there. I really don't care. It's there because it's there, and I which is stupid because I've gotten plenty of requests and stuff from posting stuff on there. It's just I kind of loathe Facebook so much, but I use it to keep in contact with certain people, so it's kind of like
right.
I kind of have to keep it, I guess. But yeah, so that's all right. Enough about me. I feel like I'm talking too much about myself.
No, you're fine.
So, but right now your big project is Beast Heart Strikers, and is there? You mentioned after issue 3, there's going to be kind of like a hiatus. Is this kind of like a planned ongoing thing, or were you and Lan just more like, we have a definitive end, and we're just kind of
let's try to figure out how much of it wasn't exactly planned, but like so something in the works. Can't really talk about it yet, but we will be back on the book once that's done.
Okay. Now I've noticed that there's been some mentions online of you drawing something for someone else's book, and I was trying to find the tweets, and unfortunately I couldn't. And I don't know if that's related to this big project, but it seemed like it was a different genre for you to be working with than we're used to. A little bit there. All right.
A little bit.
We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there, nice and vague.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, and as I promised you earlier off recording, I'm trying to keep this brief so we don't take up too many people's time. But it's been a blast talking to you, Joe. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you were probably one of the first people on Twitter, at least in the first few months of me joining Twitter, that I've, still interact with.
Shucks.
And all that. And it's been great seeing you tackle projects. It's been great seeing your art just get better and better, and just seeing you refine your style and reach new heights. And I can't wait to see what's coming next. I'm long overdue on reading Beast Heart Strikers. I definitely want to read that. And as I mentioned before, you did me the great honor of drawing me as a security guard, escorting a character out from Radical Guardian Skater X, and I greatly appreciate that. Feel free to throw me in any book you have, and if it's something horrible happens to me, even better. Have a giant kaiju step on me and my eyes pop up. Whatever. You just throwing some ideas out there. That's all.
I might have something in mind for issue 4 then.
Oh, excellent. I get to show it to my kids. Look. Daddy's friend Joom dying. Look at it. It's awesome. That's Daddy's spleen. No, seriously though, Joe, it's been a blast talking to you. It's long overdue, and once this big thing we can't talk about happens and all that, hopefully, we can have another chat and you can, pump that out, and hopefully there'll be some more Beast Strikers out that we can all start promoting and enjoying, and like you mentioned before, possibility of doing a Kickstarter for a collected edition and all that. So
yeah.
So before we log off, Joe, could you let the people in internet land know where they can find you?
Right. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Joe_Hunter. Pretty easy. I'm on Instagram at Joe Bloody Hunter. Also on my Twitter, you can find links to my Threadless store and my Patreon, and I've got dumb T-shirts you can buy. I think that's it. Oh God, I have a Tumblr, but it's not really active anymore. Yeah, that's it.
All right, sounds good. That's plenty of places to get. That's plenty of places to get your Joe goodness. All right, Joe. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.